All right, we'll get all the last out the way. So guys, it is Dr. Ryan. Joined with me a special guest on Revitalize Fitness. It is Dr. JC. Welcome to the building and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, good to see you, man. It's been a hot minute.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Great to catch up as always. So if you don't mind, we're just gonna ask you a few questions, just kind of get some feedback and just kind of give some education to a lot of people that may not have maybe the right information or access to it. So we just want to have more resources available to more people.
Got
Um,
it.
so we'll just kind of go into the first question. So in terms of chiropractic care and workout efficiency, how do you think chiropractic can help improve, efficiency of workouts and help with overall performance?
With this one, the way that I look at it, and I even try to talk to patients about this, is the way that our bodies work, and those of us who've gone to school kind of understand that. So I try to keep it simple. Is we all have our brain. The brain is a general for everything, and then we have the brainstem, the spinal cord, and then all the spinal nerves that go out and help us control like our hands, feet, all the movements that we do. So if we can learn to maintain that integrity of the spine, then the nervous system functions correctly. And if the nervous system is functioning correctly, then we get to, move it the way that we want to move it, be it, dumbbell curls, power cleans, snatches, thrusters, burpees, all that, so on and so forth. So, yeah, just making sure that spine stays aligned and keeping everything from being inked, so to say. Because, like, the other analogy I'll use with people is one that we probably heard in school and a lot of people know is like you get a brand new water hose, you turn the water hose on, especially, for us in Arizona, it's hot. Everybody wants to spray each other with the water hose and it flows beautifully. The second you kink it and then you're trying to run with it or do something else with it, and then you try to open it back up, that water doesn't flow as effectively. And we want to make sure that we're not doing that to our spine and our spinal nerves. We want to make sure that we're allowing that flow from the brain, brainstem, um, spinal cord, spinal nerve roots to those muscles, that everything's functioning accordingly. So,
And I think a lot of times there's like a big misconception of, you have to be in like a certain state of treatment or a certain injury, to, seek treatment. And a lot of times, that's the case, the low back, you bend over,
right, right,
very common. But I think a lot of people don't know the other aspect of, how it can optimize, performance, whether it's for a big competition or, a big event,
correct.
so I think that's something that, we can discuss upon too, if you don't mind.
Yeah, not at all. And I know that kind of touches on to something you asked later on. Where is it at? Not the recovery part, but either or. So, the conservative care aspect. So, like what we do as chiropractors is conservative care, maintenance, rehab, all this other stuff. We're not injecting things. We're not, cutting people open. And there's also a time and a place for that. So I don't want that to be misconstrued that like I'm against that by any means, because there is a time and a place for all the types of medicine that's out there. And we need to utilize those effectively. Now, with what we do is trying to keep that body performing optimally with that conservative treatment and getting people either one out of pain, two, then getting them into the proper rehab, because pain is the first thing to go away, but it's the last thing to show up in your body. So that being said, an athlete or any other person for that matter can be suffering from dysfunction for a very long time before pain even shows up. And when that pain shows up is typically when people start to come to us as as their practitioner. And obviously we want to get them out of pain and then also educate them along the way, so that way they understand pain's going to go away pretty quickly here based on whatever that injury is. And then we need to rehab that. We need to re-educate the spinal cord to turn things back on, to get these muscles to work optimally, so that way they can get back into their craft, whatever that may be. So that conservative care in a financial aspect is the cheapest thing that people can do, because do you want to wait 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years down the road where you actually had so much dysfunction that you need to see those other specialists that need to do, invasive care to get you back to possibly and hopefully back to where you need to be. But it's more that preventative measures. That way we can keep people like performing 100% or as close as to 100% we can get them to help them continue to what they want to do.
Awesome, awesome. Definitely a lot of great takeaways. And then like just kind of getting back into, the I guess the brain flow, like you were mentioning,
Mm-hmm.
throughout the body. Um, how does that tie in, as far as with nutrition, having like kind of that brain body connection.
So nutrition is huge, and I'm just as guilty as probably anybody else. Like I love sweets, I love Dairy Queen. That's my Dairy Queen and donuts are my vices. But I'll try to explain this how I talk to my 13-year-old son is you are what you eat. So if you're eating Doritos, if you're eating, boatloads of Dairy Queen and junk food and things with preservatives, that's what your body is now made out of. Those cells are now manufactured in the essence of what you consume. So if we start to eat whole foods, fruits, vegetables, and this is kind of like a broad approach at the same time, a very simplistic approach is, and I forget who I'm stealing this information from. I think he's a CrossFit coach out of like New England, and he talked about it. And so like I kind of use his words as far as like I stole this. This isn't mine. Is it either came from the ground or it has eyes, and so it's better to educate people with that versus saying don't eat this, don't eat this, don't eat this. People don't want to hear negative things. I sure don't.
Right.
So if we can make it simple and just be positive moving forward of, it either came from the ground or it has eyes. You got fish, you got, poultry, you got all kind of different kinds of beef, you got all these fruits and vegetables that grow from the ground. It's all free game. And so once your cells start to reproduce and now they're being produced based off of what you're eating, you innately start to feel better. And once you start to feel better, your body can perform better. And then once your body starts to perform better, then again, that's where that chiropractic access and that educational process of understanding the nutrition tied in with what you're doing, now you're putting your body in the best optimal position to be able to move forward as a unit without degrading your body, if you will, if that makes sense.
It definitely does. And just kind of to touch on that, it kind of goes back to like, the processed foods, versus, the nutrient dense foods, and
Yes.
just really understanding the difference between the two. Because I think a lot of times, there's a lot of labels that, may mention, certain health benefits, but when you look at the calories, it's like packed with, soybean oil or all kinds of, these canola oils or,
Mm-hmm. All the
all
fillers.
exactly, things that your body can't really break down, that are gonna, eventually help, clog arteries and things of that nature. So, um, it's just really tying in, knowing the difference between, what is gonna help your body and fuel your body versus what's gonna, break it down. And I think that's a really great way to maybe summarize it.
Yeah, and even additionally with that is once you start to eat better, that whole ecosystem that lives within your intestines and your gut starts to change. So you get satiated or you get full for longer because your body has to work at breaking down these whole foods. Therefore, you're getting, that optimal benefit where if you're eating, garbage or trash foods, it's a whole different ecosystem that grows. So you have this like lesser like the good wolf, bad wolf type ordeal. So you're feeding that bad wolf, and those little microbiome creatures that are in your intestines start to crave it more, and they send that signal to your brain, like, "Hey, I know you're full, but eat some more." Like because they're telling you what they want, and now you're eating more and more junk food, and you're not helping yourself in the process. So,
Um, yeah, definitely, definitely. So definitely a great moment to kind of just look at not only your nutrition, but look at also what's inside it. Because a lot of times a lot of things are going to be hidden. So just be
mhm,
mindful and being aware of what's around you, what's available to you, and what you have access to.
absolutely.
But yeah, so why don't we leeway into maybe some recovery tips, so we can go into maybe some preventative measures, some precautions, so people don't,
Yeah.
hurt themselves, no hero moment. So
Right, right. I got real big into recovery when everything got shut down. So I was able to sleep the amount I needed to sleep, and that was a game changer. So sleep is probably more important than your workout itself. That's when your body repairs itself. That's when your body takes care of itself because you're not doing anything else. You're laying in bed and your body can focus on repairing and getting you ready for that next day's workout. That's one of the huge things for me. And I know a lot of other people believe that as well. There's a bunch of research out there. As far as besides sleep, any kind of active recovery. So going for little walks. So anything that's not as intense as your regular workout would be. So, easy walks, riding a bike, cycling, easy little things that you can do around, like a walk around your lake or something, get out in nature, go on small hikes. If you have access to an ice bath, those are good. Um, Saunas are good. It changes like the white fat to the brown fat, which is the healthier fat that's in your body. What else? Oh, and I was just doing it before you got here, like a percussion instrument. Like those are good. Self-massaging, getting massages on a regular basis to get everything flowing, get the lymphatic system flowing. Um, I think that's all I got off the top of my head.
yeah. The only thing I would add is maybe like just maybe some like rehabilitation exercises, like
Mm,
there's like spinal movements that you can do to kind of help loosen, maybe increase range of motion. So
yes, mobility work. Yes.
yeah. Um, but aside from that, I think that kind of covers like, the main parameter is just, also taking the time to, fully recover, and not kind of pushing yourself, when you
Right.
want to, take that extra workout, you're like, all right, maybe I should just take today off. Um, it definitely.
That being said too, one of my best friends is I've danced with him for years. He's also a CrossFit coach now. He's certified in all the business with that. And I really enjoy the way that he's educating his clients is they have two mandatory rest days in their programming. So their rest days are Thursdays and Sundays. So even on their rest days, they're not programming a workout, but they'll have like an hour long like stretching session. So they're going to walk you through, you know, whatever they broke down during the week, they're going to start to repair on Thursday, in a group class, in a group setting, which I think is a very unique thing to add into like a CrossFit gym or a functional fitness gym.
Because I feel like a lot of times like we know we're supposed to do our extra stretches, our warm-ups, get the blood flow moving. But I think a lot of times that's a lot of times overlooked. I'm guilty
Mm-hmm.
of this too. Just kind of
Yep.
straight straight into the workout. Just start doing stuff. But I think it is important, to also add in either a warm up or a cool down, preferably both if you have the
Mm-hmm.
time for it. And just making sure that's a part of your routine because the biggest thing
Right.
is, going to be consistency. So
Absolutely.
it doesn't matter if you do all this in one day and then, don't do it the rest of the week. Like it has to be
Right.
so definitely. So why don't we kind of go into maybe addressing muscle imbalances, because I think a lot of times, people aren't conscious of what that is and what that can actually do, when you're working out.
Right. That's a good one. Especially like working with athletes. I remember just learning about that and being an athlete myself. I've been playing soccer since I was 5. I played for about 20 years. I've been breakdancing since I was 19. I got about like 26 years in that game now. And then also getting involved in CrossFit, the last, 8 years or so is athletes are the greatest compensators. Doesn't matter what sport you're in. we compensate so quickly because everybody's pushing their bodies to this threshold or this point because they're trying to reach a like an end goal, whether it's in training, whether it's in competition, or training for that competition. Those GTOs, those Golgi tendon organs, they get tired. Those are our safe. Like the way I talk to patients about it is that's your circuit breaker. It's the one thing where the example being like if you're holding a dumbbell, you're holding a curl, you're not going to hold it forever. At a given point, that GTO is going to kick in, and that's saving your muscle from tearing or any other kind of injury. And so when I talk to patients about that, it's that muscle is now turned off. So it's just like if anybody overloads an outlet, and if you have too many things plugged in, that circuit breaker in the back of the house or the building is going to pop and turn off because it doesn't want the house to explode, blow up, or damage the room. That being said, when that muscle turns off, now you have to have other muscles in your body, and your brain's going to decide which muscles are going that's going to be to now compensate for the muscle that turned off. So now you have muscles doing the job of something else. And I like to target shoulders and hips. Those are big areas where people get injured a lot. And now you have like I said, those big muscles that are doing the job of the little muscle that's supposed to contain that ball and that socket joint, so to say. And now we got to get those things turned back on and being able to get adjusted, do your mobility work, being able to do certain, like the vegetable exercises, like good mornings or like foundation training, things of that nature to reset those muscle spindles so those muscles can turn back on, and then complementing them with the adjustment simultaneously. I've seen it work time and time again when I was interning with active patients now, and it's amazing to see how fast people can get, how much stronger people can get, and how fast they actually recover, whether it's during a competition or watching them throughout the week when they're posting videos or sending videos of a snatch perhaps or a clean and jerk or sprinting and watching someone actually get faster in a 100-meter dash.
Mhm.
Those are huge because now we're teaching them the importance of maintaining their body. Just like another analogy here, just like why do you put oil in your engine for your car? Because so it can run smoothly. And this is us maintaining our vehicle ourselves so we can run smoothly. So when you have those imbalances, that'll start to tweak your body. So hopefully you can see me pretty good here. So like if I'm doing like overhead presses and my arms are getting tired, next thing you know, like I'm tilted here.
Mhm.
And now we have other muscles that are working or overworking. Then all of a sudden you get that turn here, but my head's still supposed to be this way. And then next thing you know, it's here, here, and here. It's over exaggerated to express that point. So that way we can understand why, again, chiropractic is important. So let's get you back into alignment. Let's re-educate these muscles as far as like rehab's concerned. So that way we can turn these muscles back on that were turned off, just like the circuit breaker in the back of the house. We flip that back on so the electricity flows back into the rooms that turned off to keep the house safe. Our house is our body, so we got to be able to turn things back on so that way we can perform the way that we want and get the job done, whatever that sport is.
And I think you bring up a lot of great points. It I think it breaks it down to, the awareness, like the body isn't aware, that it's in these malpositions or these contorted uh I guess misalignments.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times your body will overcompensate, like you said. And a lot of people don't notice it because, your body is going to adapt to it. It's going to adapt to stress, whatever stress load you give it, it's going to adapt to it.
Right.
Like you said, eventually it turns off, the muscles stop firing, the nerve isn't making that connection with the brain. Now you have a dysfunction, and then that leads to, injury, which also, kind of just goes down the line. So, I think it's great to know, to be aware of, like, your body's position, before the exercise, but also during, and even after, like
Mm-hmm.
really being like in the moment when you're doing the lift, not thinking about anything else that's happening, nothing external, like really being like present, like in the moment when you're lifting,
Hmm.
and really, focusing on, what is the movement I'm doing, how far, the angle, and then, making sure that, you're doing it safely. So,
Correct.
um,
Yeah. That being said, too, one of the other things that I've been focusing on recently, too, this is more on the topic of the core strength and like spinal health, is breathing and bracing, and people teaching people how to breathe and brace correctly, because they don't know how to breathe using their diaphragm and breathe into their stomach, so to say, and teaching them to breathe out into the obliques, how to breathe on the outside of their body, let alone the front's typically the easiest to teach somebody, and then slowly cueing them to breathe on the outside, that lateral aspect of the abdomen, and then teaching them how to breathe into their back. So just the breath alone can create a lot of stability around the spine. And the analogy for that is, think of, like, a lot of people know, like the little collapsible water bottles, is if we keep the top off, there's no air contained in it, we can just crush that bottle. There's
right.
nothing that's going to help project it back up. There's nothing help keeping it stable. But if we put the top on it, that's like us taking that big breath and learning how to brace into that core. And then when we try to squish that little bottle, it's not going to squish. There's going to be a little bit of a give, but it's going to help bounce back up.
Mhm.
And so teaching people that has been huge recently. Even with that, we learned it in school, is we have 6 layers of back muscles. There's so many back muscles, and I didn't even know why it took me so long for it to click. I forget who was talking to me about it with that same notion, but those are those muscles that are around your spine. So if the spine isn't protected and protecting the spinal cord, where are we at? Are we walking? Are we moving our arms? Are we being able to go to the restroom? Like simple things like that, we kind of take advantage of or take for granted. But those muscles are there to be activated for once, and making sure that they are activated. Two, bracing when they're supposed to, not just in a traumatic situation, which that's a whole side topic of why people have neck pain, back pain, and stuff like that when they're in like car accidents and things of that nature. But learning to engage those specific muscles, as along with that breathing and bracing, along with your lifts, along with like picking up the sugar off the ground, picking up kids, getting up from the toilet. I don't know how many people, and then they're kind of ashamed that they're like they can't get off the toilet, and teaching them how to breathe and brace, and then all of a sudden 3 weeks later, along with a couple other exercises, they're like, "Hey doc, like I didn't have to wrap a towel around the outside of the door to pull myself up. I got off the toilet." And then being able to share in that moment of that excitement that we have done a great job with this person, educated them, helped them rehab, understanding that core stability all throughout the core, and giving them like their quality of life a little bit of a like upliftment. Um, Another analogy that I've been using recently, I was talking to some of my staff members about it, because we were going through they were watching me work with a couple patients, and like, why is that important? I said, okay, well, let's take an apple for instance. And where's the core at? They're like, it's in the center. I was like, what is it protected by? The outside of the apple, the skin, all the meat of the apple, all the way around. I said, until that apple goes bad, that's a whole different conversation. But when you use like the apple slicer and you slice it all the way through, and then the core comes out, that's your spine, your muscles and your organs, and the air you breathe in, that's the outside of the apple that's holding that core together. So if we can hold that core together, you're like, I don't know, it's exciting for me when I watch these people, and like the light bulb clicks. It's like, oh, okay, that's why I got to do this. Okay, let's learn, let's teach other people. So um yeah, that core strength and that spinal stability is more important than people believe or know.
Um, and like for me is like I always imagine it is like you're at like the bottom of the squat and you're just holding your breath, you have your belt on, and like there's no way you can push out any air, like you know what I mean, and you're just like trying to
Hmm.
get that last rep. But I That's what I think of. So like when you're talking about like with the app,
Yeah.
everything getting switched, like I was like, okay, that's kind of how it feels like, you know.
Yeah, it was one of our classmates that had taught me that analogy when we were lifting at school when we were going to LACC. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like that was the first big click because I would be in a squat in the hole and then you're trying to get out and if you break that core stability, you fall forward, you've collapsed now, you're more prone to a bigger injury. And then what? Other than dumping the bar, like anything and everything can go bad at that point. And so having learned that when I did, it was very beneficial for me moving forward.
Um, and then I guess just kind of leewaying like onto that, like, as far as the breathing, goes, how can people kind of work on maybe their diaphragm.
Diaphragmatic. Yeah.
There we go. That was like that's a tongue twister right there.
It
A
is. It is.
diaphragmatic breathing. Like what are a couple like exercises that you'd maybe recommend?
Some simple things that I've been working with people is getting a towel, rolling it up so it's about 3 4 inches high, so that way when they lay face down on the floor,
Mhm.
that towel's on their forehead, so they keep that neutral spine position. They let their hands hang out to the side, almost like they're going to do like a snow angel, but face first down,
Mhm.
and allowing their body to. Sorry, 1 second. That was my son. I'll call him back right now. Um, are we still good?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Oh, okay. He doesn't get this. Um, so going back to the breathing face down, when so they have the towel, it's on their forehead, they're keeping that neutral spine in their neck. They're breathing their abdomen directly into the floor. So that way they can actually feel their body lift up and then fall back down. That's probably one of the easier cues that I've learned even for myself
Mhm.
is to be able just to lay their face down and breathe into my belly, allowing it to lift myself up off the ground. So that way we start really forcing that diaphragmatic breathing. Another thing that I'll do is I'll take my thumbs and I'll actually push them into the side of my abdomen and try to breathe out. So that way, once I'm breathing in, you want to force those thumbs out. And then when you let go, you should literally feel your thumbs like squeeze into your abdomen. That those will be the two ways for that. And then when I get them to breathe into their back, then I'll have them lay on their back with their legs bent. I'll teach them how to pelvic rock a little bit, so making their back flat on the ground,
Mhm.
and then working all those breathing cues again, where the thumb is on the side, the index fingers in the front, and kind of like squeezing it and like pincing almost, so that
Mhm.
way they can breathe out that way into that cylinder, if you will, and then slowly starting to learn how to feel and breathe into the floor because they know what it feels like in the front.
Mhm.
Then it's a little bit easier to cue them to start breathing into the back, so then they get that full breath all the way out through their abdomen and then back in, so the whole core is starting to breathe and brace that way.
Awesome. So it was great that you covered, all aspects, not only, think about breathing, from the front, but also the sides, and then, kind of bringing it all together. So, it definitely was a great way to learn it. We do have about 10 more minutes left. So I just want to
Oh,
leave it open, for like a one final thought, any final advice or recommendations, for anyone looking to improve performance, their health, or their fitness, any lasting thoughts you want to leave the audience with?
so with that, it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with, myself, is if you're thinking about it, then you should probably start
Mhm.
and start as soon as you can. So if you're not stretching, go to a yoga class, do hot yoga. There's plenty of apps that are out there. There's plenty of things on YouTube to help you with that. Just start. And even with that, just starting, write down your goals. So that way you physically can see what your goals are, like what are you trying to attain.
Mhm.
It's huge. There's a big, eye to handwriting to brain connection. And whether it's on a whiteboard, whether it's on a post-it. Example is I would write things on post-its and put them on my mirror. So when I would brush my teeth in the morning, I was reading my words to me. I was advising myself on what I needed to do, whether it was like a motivational quote, something that I needed to hear to build up my self-esteem, or something to motivate me to make sure, like, go to the gym, eat right, just make it happen, and being like a motivator to myself. So yeah, don't wait till you think you're ready. You're ready now. Put in the effort, make it happen. Um, yeah, I think that's about it.
No, definitely a great final message. Um, it's very motivational and inspirational, and it's definitely been very positive. I have enjoyed, our time together. I was able to learn from you, pick your brain.
Likewise.
So, I always appreciate the time. As always, what is the best way, if somebody would want to maybe connect with you, maybe receive treatment, where are you located, and maybe talk a little bit about your practice, or, how people could, find you.
Gotcha. Well, Instagram's probably the easiest to message me, even though my account's blocked for other reasons.
Mhm.
It's feather neck, so just like it sounds, it's a feather and a neck. I got a tattoo on my neck of a feather, so that should be pretty easy. Just shoot me a message there. I can typically get back to people pretty quickly. I'm located out of Tucson, Arizona. I work. We got a business card right here. So I work at Arizona Chiropractic and Spine Rehabilitation. The office number is 520-600-3300. We specialize in spinal recovery from car accidents, workman's comp, state workman's comp, federal workman's comp, and everything else in between. We have a hyperbaric chamber. We have numerous decompression tables. So for cervical or lumbar, for any kind of disc herniations or things of that nature. What else do we have here? We have a full body laser bed, so we tap into lymphatic system, liver cleansing, eye health with that. What else do we have here? We have a full PT area to go with everything that we have. Um, yeah, I mean that's pretty straightforward. Um, yeah, I don't know what else. Like now, I feel like I'm on the spot about other things. I hate talking
No,
about me.
no, it's all good. It's all good. I just want to make sure, we're also able to connect you with people as well if they happen to stumble across, this video, whether
Uh-huh.
it's Instagram or YouTube. I just want to give them access to you as well,
No, I appreciate it.
yeah. So definitely, very appreciative of your time today. Thank you for everything you shared with us. And yeah, why don't we stay in touch and let's stay connected. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Thanks, Doc. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Take care.
All right, man. Take it easy.